are bougie Brits raising a generation of boozers? I mean, that's certainly what the evidence seems to be suggesting.
No,
but
because they're saying Brits, and it's not Britain, it's just England.
No, but we heard Scotland and Wales are also
they're
much higher.
They're nowhere near as high as England are, though. And we're looking at it the wrong way. We shouldn't say we're the worst at this. We're number one at kids drinking underage. That's something to be proud of. We're number one at something. And also, there's a huge difference, by the way, between a kid
necking... hot take of the day.
A kid necking cider every day and a kid like me, 12 years old, having a glass of wine with Sunday dinner. That's a huge difference. This survey asked, have kids tasted alcohol? A kid says, yes, I've tasted alcohol when I was 12 years old. That's not the same as a kid who's binge drinking every weekend.
No, right. Tasted alcohol. If they just mean tasted it, I mean, frankly, most kids hate it when they taste it. Yeah. That shouldn't count. This is only interesting if what we're talking about here is kids drinking with some kind of regularity.
Yeah, problem drinking.
Or binge drinking. Yeah. Tasting it is irrelevant.
We just have a massive drink culture here, and we have for years and generations. And the thing that really gets my go as a sports presenter is when Manchester City win again, and then the presenter in the morning goes, oh, and the City fans will be waking up with sore heads this morning. Well, there are other ways of enjoying your celebrations. You know, we don't have to go out for drinks. But we do have a drink culture. So, I mean, it's been normalised for hundreds of years in this country. The fact that we're sort of now competing against the rest of the world is really of no surprise.
It's a slightly... People don't deny that they go out to get hammered. I mean, JJ and I first went for a drink when we were 13, didn't we?
Wait a minute. I'm about 15 years younger.
He invited me up to the... He'd like to think so. Yeah, in his George from Mazda suit. You're fooling no one, mate. But there is that, you know, in the workplace, but it's like, are we going to the pub? Are we going to the pub? And I think, you know, if you work in other countries, as many around here have, of course, people go for a drink afterwards. There is a slightly different emphasis, and I guess there's a contagion in that. And kids do pick it up from an early age. I mean, we drink at home all the time. Yeah. But it's not to excess. But it's a glass of wine with a meal. It's a beer when I want to come home from work on a Friday. First thing I do is have a beer.
No one says Daisy McAndrew holds her cigarettes really well, but you would say Daisy McAndrew can hold her booze, and we're proud of that. You know, we foster a culture of let's have a drink, who can drink the most. It's seen as a good thing. That's part of the culture.
But picking up on Isabel's point, we always used to be told that we were a nation of binge drinking, and if only we could be more Mediterranean in our attitude to wine, and that, you know, France and Spain and Italy would always, obviously, you know, fine wine-growing nations, and would introduce wine to their children around the, you know, family Sunday meal, and therefore those children grew up not to be problem drinkers, but to enjoy that sort of, you know, pairing of wine and food. So I agree with you. We need to know, does this mean we're becoming more like the French, in other words, more civilised, or are we becoming less civilised and we're all a bunch of sort of, you know, loutish lager louts? And weirdly, my understanding is that actually the young, like the under-20s, are drinking less than they ever have in the past.
We keep hearing
that. They're off booze.
I'd like to pick up on the point about the advertising, which I think is absolute nonsense. Yes. The reason we may have higher rates of drinking among young people has nothing to do with them seeing stuff on TV. It is all about, in my view, the example set by their parents. Not all, but primarily.
Or peer pressure.
Primarily about what goes on in the family home. We have, I'm afraid, very, very serious alcoholism in my family. And I am so conscious of how to bring up children with a healthy relationship with alcohol when they have seen the utter chaos and hell that serious addiction to alcohol brings. And it's quite difficult to navigate that, you know, when children have been exposed to serious alcoholism, because they can either go one of two ways. They can either never want to touch it, or they can inherit bad habits.
And actually, addictive personality traits can
run in families.
Inherited and run in families as well.
I think one way of dealing with it is to try to give your children, don't make it the forbidden fruit, but give them a sense that moderation in everything. I don't think my children have any interest in drinking underage, you know, but I would like them, as they get older, to be able to enjoy a glass of wine or two in a healthy way. It shouldn't be all or nothing.
It's almost inconsequential, because when you look at adults drinking across Europe, England is nowhere near the top 15, 20 countries. It's places like Lithuania, Hungary. Yeah, former Soviet
Russia's
countries.
probably pretty bad.
Also,
and-
the Nordic countries were all heavy.
Norway, yeah, they drink loads. So I'm more concerned, this will sound like what a battery, but I'm more concerned with kids drinking caffeine and sugar drinks, which is leading to obesity, rather than a few kids having a glass of wine. every
And
so
also,
often.
we
That is
do know that we are, world leaders when it comes to teenage vapors, which is
Yes.
something we've discussed many, many times, and
Well,
was in this same
losers and all
WHO
that.
report.
Collins, what we've lost
I
him.
was just pondering the word.
lost in
Do you know what I was pondering? The word binge, because there's no binge about it, is it? We just go for it. There's no binge. Sort of suggests that it's a sort of almost a buffet situation. Like a little bit here, and I'll have a little bit there, and I'm just binging, like grazing almost. No, you're not. You're caning it, mate. We do a lot of that, but as you say, in the wider adult drinking league, we're not top of the table.
Yeah.
I think Isabel is absolutely spot on. I'm aware, when I say we drink at home, you have a glass of wine with dinner and stuff. Not every single night, but I'm aware of what message goes in.
That's a fine message. Parents being drunk in front of their children, I think that massively crosses a line. I mean, a little bit tipsy on a special occasion, but drunkenness in front of children, I expect, is pretty widespread, actually, in many households.
I think that's
And that
disturbing.
sends a terrible
Yeah,
message.
totally agree.
And there's also two Mediterraneans, aren't there? There's the Western Mediterranean, which is predominantly Christian and drinks, and then you've got the Eastern Mediterranean, which is largely Muslim and they don't drink.
There
But
we
which
go.
holiday do you have the most fun on?